Heidi ho, chickadees. How are we all doing this amazing Thursday evening? I hope you're all doing well. I have my earbuds in, but the truth of the matter is, I have no video I'm playing tonight, so I don't really need to hear anything. We're just going to hang out for the evening because I got a doozy for you today. Oh, yeah. Before we get into that, I want to tell you all how fantastic Mr. Demeanor and my anniversary was last night. We went to a beautiful restaurant and I stuffed myself. It was actually a little embarrassing. I had these amazing carrots with goat cheese, mashed potatoes, a filet mignon. I had, they're called, I don't know what it's called. It's a hard boiled egg, but it's like a deviled egg, the yolk part of it. And it had a shrimp on top of it and like a pork kind of barbecue pork thing. Y'all, it was fantastic. And I had some pineapple rolls and I finished the meal. Oh, I had a Caesar salad. I had a nice glass of wine. And I finished the meal off with one of my favorites, Bananas Foster. Love Bananas Foster. So it was a phenomenal meal. The service was fantastic. And we had a great evening, just the two of us. And it was an early dinner because, of course, I've been on staycation. But today, unfortunately, was my last day of staycation. And I treated myself, got the little spring summer trim on the wig. It was time for a trim. Good grief. It just keep my hair just keeps getting bigger when I have more of it. So it was time. And now I have my spring summer gig going on. Let me say hello to a bunch of you. Oh, and by the way, you might want to tell me what you're drinking this evening since I have to report to the JOB tomorrow. It's Dr. Pepper, zero sugar. But last night, I had a nice glass of Riesling, which I normally don't drink, but it was a very, very nice, sweet Riesling. Hello, Peppermint PJ. Glad you're with us. And Lil Drummer Boy is with us again as well. And Livy, thank you so much for the happy anniversary. Thank you to all of you that are saying happy anniversary. Sharissa, happy that you're catching alive with us this evening. We got a lot to go over. Y'all aren't going to believe this story. Who else do we have in here? Holly is back with us. Thanks for joining. Yes, the thumbnail for this episode. Did you like that thumbnail? Drinking Gatorade. That is what Mr. Demeanor has to do because he wakes in the middle of the night with these horrific cramps in his legs. And there's nothing I can do for him. I just sit. I'm like, I'm sorry for you. I got nothing, honey. Sorry. Like, really sorry. So the Gatorade is what the doctor has suggested. And in addition to that, I think he should keep some pickle juice around. That's just me. I can't imagine it would hurt. But I also think that if he took some magnesium, he drinks a ton of water. So that's not what the issue is. That would be the issue if it were me. Yeah, he does drink a lot of water and he's still having issues. So I think with the electrolytes and maybe a little bump in magnesium, that will cure that leg cramp situation. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for him. If you are just joining us for the very first time, hey, Kristen, thanks for hanging out with us this evening. Y'all are going to love this one tonight, I'm telling you. If it's your first time and you haven't subscribed, what? You haven't subscribed? You should do that now. If you have subscribed, you can always become a member and get cool emojis because we a lot of times shut the front door and you might want that emoji for that. Or sometimes you have to thank people and you need the thank you emoji. So keep that in mind. As I was sitting this week, also before I forget, leave your DNA on the that thing, the thumbs up words. Leave your DNA on the thumbs up. If you can boost on occasion during the live stream, that always helps the algorithm for me as well. Anyone that is on replay crew, thank you so, so much. I always appreciate everybody that takes the time to watch on replay. It is much appreciated. Chaos Granny's back with us. And yes, the anniversary was beyond my expectations. So thank you so much for all the well wishes. And we did 26 years. Who'd have thunk? Who'd have thunk? Here we are. We've been through a lot, the two of us, but we're still together. So as I'm sitting at home this week for my staycation, and I'm scrolling through the Twix, as one does, and I come across this really unbelievable story that Law and Crime put out about a surgeon that removed the wrong organ from his patient. Well, you all know me. Piqued my interest. I'm reading it and was, what? So I started to dig into it. Boy, did I dig into it. And so what I learned is what we're going to go over tonight. So first out of the gate, we need everybody to make sure that your bag is packed because we're headed to the panhandle of Florida. And we're hoping that we all arrive safely because we do not want to be in the hospital where this particular surgeon was on call because things didn't go well. Hey, Mrs. Georgia Mom, I think is what that means. Oh, excellent. I will have to dig into that at some point. I have a lot to cover with this case. This evening, for those of you that are just listening, it says, hi, Ms. D. I sent you a DM on X about my experience at this same hospital. And then it's an emoji with the eyes being slightly covered. There's a lot. And for whatever reason, the clerk's office website where they send you, it doesn't always give me all of the documents. So, but I did manage to get like a really cool big bulk that will tell us a lot of what I think is going to be coming up in the criminal trial. So let's get into it. All right, let me put myself in the right spot, all that jazz. All righty. Surgeon indicted for removing patient's liver instead of spleen, causing man's death. This gentleman shown here on the screen is Dr. Thomas Charnovsky. Dr. Charnovsky is the individual that we will be speaking in reference to the entire evening tonight. Yes. Of course, if I'm staycationing, I need to get sun. Y'all know that's going to happen. All righty, let's get a little summary of what happened, and then we're going to dig into all of it. Walton County, Florida. A surgeon on Florida's Panhandle was indicted for second-degree manslaughter in the operating room death of a 70-year-old man in August 2024, authorities said. According to a news release from the Walton County Sheriff's Office and online booking records, Thomas Jacob Sheknovsky, 44 of Destin, was indicted by a grand jury. Sheknovsky, who was a surgeon with the Ascension Sacred Heart Emerald Coast, was charged in connection with the August 21st, 2024 death of William Bryan of Muscle Shoals, Alabama. The Office of the State Attorney for the First Judicial Circuit announced that a grand jury in Walton County returned the indictment. Sheknovsky was arrested and booked into the Walton County Jail on Monday, according to the television station. The grand jury found probable cause in handing down the indictment, according to the sheriff's office. Bryan was scheduled for a laparoscopic splenectomy. Prosecutors said that Sheknovsky removed Bryan's liver instead of his spleen, causing catastrophic blood loss and resulting in the patient's death. It's beyond horrible and horrific. You are absolutely right, Mrs. Georgia Mom. Just awful. I'm sorry. I am having an itchy nose episode right now, and I don't know why. Whew. Bryan and his wife traveled from Muscle Shoals for a vacation at their condominium in Destin. After feeling pain in his left side, Bryan went to Ascension Sacred Heart Emerald Coast in Miramar Beach on August 18th, 2024. He became Sheknovsky's patient, and after initially refusing surgery, Bryan underwent a procedure in the operating room 3 days later. A month after Bryan's death, the state of Florida filed a motion to suspend Sheknovsky's medical license. The suspension order accused the physician of, get ready, y'all, repeated egregious surgical errors. Let me emphasize repeated. You're all going to hear all about it. I did not read everything that I'm going to be covering tonight. I glanced over it so that I get an idea what we should cover. So you'll still get a lot of genuine reactions out of me tonight because, and egregious conduct of fabricating medical records. After beginning surgery, an aneurysm caused hemorrhaging and Bryan's vitals to decline. Sheknovsky then used a stapling device in Bryan's abdomen despite not being able to see due to blood accumulation and removed what he, air quotes, believed to be a spleen, the suspension order stated. Hey, Kristen, already making it rain memberships. Thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships. Do we know who we need to welcome? Let me look and see. We now have members Jenzabel, Country Butterfly, the OGZ or OGJZ, Holly, and Mrs. Georgia Mom. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sorry, I have gotten distracted. Thank you again, Kristen. Always nice of you to gift so many memberships. All right, back to the story. Although other members of the operating staff knew that the organ removed from Bryan was his liver, Sheknovsky ordered that it be labeled a spleen when sent to pathology. The order further charged that after Bryan's death, Sheknovsky claimed that the patient died to an artery aneurysm rupturing. An autopsy showed otherwise. Imagine that. The grand jury found probable cause to charge that the actions taken in the operating room constituted criminal conduct under Florida law. Our duty is to follow the facts wherever they lead without fear or favor, Walton County Sheriff Michael Adkinson said in a statement. The grand jury has spoken, and our responsibility is to ensure the charges are carried out through the proper legal process. Our thoughts remain with the victim's family and their unspeakable loss. We are committed to seeing this case through with the professionalism and integrity our community expects. So, there's another article I'm going to pull up next because we don't need to read the whole article. It's basically the same information. However, the repeated egregious acts, there's a little bit more information. Sorry, hydrating because, talking a lot. Let me get us to this. Public records show. Let me move me down. What am I doing? There we go. Public records show Dr. Shaknovsky has faced prior malpractice accusations, including a $400,000 settlement in 2024 for a 2023 incident where he removed part of a patient's pancreas instead of the adrenal gland, and another case where a patient died after part of their intestine was removed. What? Yeah. That's the part I wanted to share with all of you because there seems to be a bit of a pattern with Dr. Shaknovsky. Big problem. Big problem. So, you know what, Holly? I don't know if he needs to go back to med school. It seems he needs a really good anatomy class because the man does not understand what the organs are. And as far as this all being at the same hospital, it is not. Yes, I believe it is. Now that I think about it, because he came to this hospital or this organization in 2020, if I remember correctly, and all of the incidents took place between 2020 and 2024. Yes, this doctor has pending civil suits. Yes. That's where I got a majority of the information is from the pending civil suit that the estate of William Bryan has brought against Dr. Shaknovsky. And that's what we're going to do. That's going to be the last thing we do is we're going to go through the actual, it's not a complaint, but the allegations basically that are being made in the civil suit. But right now, we're going to take a peek at the grand jury true bill. So if any of you wanted to know what it looked like, that's why I pulled this up. So it does show Circuit Court of Walton County in the state of Florida. This is the state of Florida versus Thomas Shaknovsky. I don't know WM 122 1982. I don't know what WM stands for. I'm drawing a blank. Indictment for manslaughter, and it does say a true bill. And then the foreman, of course, signed for the entire grand jury. You will notice all of the documents say unofficial document on them. However, I will tell you, I pulled these directly from the county website. I just believe that's what they do. So no one is going out there stating that it's something from the actual court itself. So, hello, Debbie. Listen away. We're happy to have you. Happy to have you this evening. So this true bill, the grand jury presented on April 6th. So not that long ago at all. Let's make this a little bigger so you all can see and I can read it because I have old eyes. Count 1. The grand jurors of the state of Florida lawfully selected, impaneled, and sworn, inquiring in and for the body of the county of Walton upon their oaths as grand jurors, do present that Thomas Shaknovsky, on or about August 21st, 2024, at and in Walton County, Florida, did by culpable negligence kill William Bryan, a human being, by removing William Bryan's liver during a surgery in violation of Section 782.07 Florida statutes. Contrary to the statutes in such cases made and provided against the peace and dignity of the state of Florida. And there is the foreperson's signature. The undersigned assistant state attorney has advised the grand jury returning this indictment as authorized by and required by law, and the assistant state attorney, their signature. Hey, Felicia. No, you can't mistake spleens for livers and livers for spleens. I don't know if he did. That's awful and scary to think about if he did these things intentionally. So that is our true bill. I'm kind of taking you through the process so that you get an idea. The next thing after the true bill came down is the Walton County Sheriff's Office made a statement. Let me see if I can fix this. So there we go. And then everybody, then it went bye-bye. I hit a button and it went bye-bye. Try again. There it is. Walton County Grand Jury indicts doctor in operating room death of Alabama man Thomas Shaknovsky, arrested in Walton County. There he is again. Orange is not his color. Walton County, a physician is behind bars in Walton County after a grand jury indictment connected to the operating room death of an Alabama man. The Office of the State Attorney for the First Judicial Circuit announced that a Walton County grand jury has returned an indictment charging Dr. Thomas Shaknovsky with second-degree manslaughter in the August 2024 death of a 70-year-old man from Muscle Shoals, Alabama. The indictment follows an extensive investigation conducted by the Walton County Sheriff's Office in coordination with the Office of the State Attorney, First Judicial Circuit, and additional state and medical authorities. Oh, yeah, additional state and medical authorities. They're not lying. On August 21st, 2024, during what was scheduled to be a laparoscopic splenectomy, Dr. Shaknovsky removed the victim's liver instead of his spleen, resulting in catastrophic blood loss and the patient's death on the operating table. The grand jury found probable cause to charge that the actions taken in the operating room constituted criminal conduct under Florida law. Our duty is to follow the facts wherever they lead, without fear or favor. The grand jury has spoken, and our responsibility is to ensure the charges are carried out through the proper legal process. Our thoughts remain with the victim's family and their unspeakable loss. We are committed to seeing this case through with the professionalism and integrity our community expects. Dr. Shaknovsky was taken into custody in Miramar Beach on Monday morning and was transported to the Walton County Jail, where he awaits first appearance. So I see a couple of questions here before I go to the next portion of our presentation this evening. KS Granny, I wonder if he was helping himself to some meds. I will tell you there's some information when we get deeper into this that makes me, for some reason, think that is a possibility. I am not making accusations. I'm merely stating there is some information that makes me go, huh? And why was he still working there? He should have lost his license after the first. Shaking my head. Yeah. So the license didn't get revoked until after this incident. So don't y'all want to know what the arrest warrant looked like and where they took him and all of that stuff? We know it was Miramar Beach, but let's take a look. Let me get it big enough for everybody to see. So it appears they nabbed him on South Holiday Road in Miramar Beach It was the 13th. Oh, unlucky number 13 for Dr. Shaknovsky. April 13th, that was Monday at 11:45 a.m. He is a white male, 44 years old. Oh, the WM is his date of birth. I see that now. 1/22/1982. He's 44, white, and 6 feet 2 inches tall. And his address. Y'all know we're gonna go there because y'all are gonna want to see this place. You're gonna want to see this place. So here it states the charge is homicide, negligent manslaughter, killing human other than by murder or homicide. And I, Deputy Sheriff Chandler Rowe, badge number 327, a sworn law enforcement officer in the state of Florida and employed with the Walton County Sheriff's Office, affirm that the following incident occurred and that there is probable cause to charge the defendant with violation of Florida State Statute 782.07.1 manslaughter. On April 13th, 2026, at approximately 0948 hours, with fellow deputies, conducted a traffic stop on a silver Mitsubishi due to the registered owner, Thomas Jacob Shaknovsky, having an active warrant for his arrest for manslaughter out of Walton County. The traffic stop was conducted at the intersection of South Holiday and Scenic Gulf Drive, where Thomas was taken into custody without incident. He was then transported to the Walton County Jail, where he was transferred to the booking staff for processing. This incident occurred in Walton County, Florida, and was documented via audio and video recording. I have not gotten that yet or even dug into it. There's a little thing called time, and it is vacation for me, so I was trying to enjoy myself a little bit. Yes, this incident would not have happened if his license was revoked. It was revoked after this 2024 incident. I don't know how to say your name. We're just going to say right. I think I'm going to faint. I can't even change my earrings. So that is the arrest. Let's go look at his booking card, because I found this was a little interesting as well. Peppermint PJ is asking, what about the people who assisted with the surgeries? Will they be charged for not stopping him? I think you will find when we get into the details of this that there were numerous individuals that were trying to sound the alarm and were not necessarily listened to, or they were poo-pooed off. And this is now where we are today. So as far as the civil cases go, the civil cases cover not only the doctor, but also the hospital and several other parties that are involved. Y'all know how that goes. You sue one, you sue them all. So yeah, you think this is horrible? Wait until we get into the details. So his booking card, you can't see, but that is his picture right there. That's the one we have seen already. And his address, date of birth of 1/22/1982. And this one has him 2 inches taller at 6 feet 4 inches and 225 pounds. This states it is a felony and he is awaiting trial. The bond that was set was $75,000 cash bond, which I'm shocked that it was so low. Then on the other hand, his license has already been taken, and it's not like he is a danger to society out on his own. He's a danger to patients. So just don't ever let him have patients again. He was released the next day at approximately 2:45 in the afternoon because he posted bond. His next appearance is May 19th in Defuniak Springs Courthouse at 8 o'clock a.m. So, this particular incident, it sounds like y'all are confused here. So, they first off, Livy says they can lose licenses to practice for ethics violations if they find they knew and didn't report. Otherwise, I think he's the one legally responsible. Don't quote me on that, though. Yeah, I think it's probably going to come down to a lot of who's cooperating, who isn't. And Kristen says, wait a minute, why was he practicing when Florida suspended his license in 2024? This incident occurred in 2024. And within 30 days of the incident taking place, his medical license was suspended. There is his typical doctor's signature here, TJ. Gosh, that's not hard to forge. And then I found this interesting, and I haven't been able to get a lot of information. So this is the cash appearance bond, and it has his address on there, but I noticed Olga Green as the depositor to cover the $75,000 cash bond, and that her mailing address was the same as Dr. Shaknovsky's. So I Googled her name, and it appears she is close to the same age. I believe she is 42. Let's go down because there is a picture here, and I'm gonna flip us so that everybody can see a little better. There's let me put myself someplace else. There's Olga, and she is, it appears, 1 year younger than Dr. Shaknovsky. Let me get us over there so you can see better. She was born in 83. I'm sorry. She's 1 year younger than him. Did I say that? She was born in 83. He was born in 82. So he is 1 year older than she is. And I'm guessing, I wasn't able to find any sort of marriage records or anything like that. I'm assuming Olga is a live-in girlfriend. I have no other choice but to think that's what this is, since her address is the same. So now what you all have been waiting for, because this is one of the signature things we do at the Chickadee Coop. We go to the house. We go tour the house. It's time to tour the house. Grab your popcorn because it's time to tour the house. Because y'all aren't going to believe this bad boy. Yeah. $4 million. It is in excess of almost 7,000 square feet. And we're going to tour it. I mean, it's pretty fancy. Wouldn't you all agree? That's a really fancy house as far as I'm concerned. I think that's better. Don't you all think that's better? We can see more of the photograph. All right. Wow, right on the water. Look at that. Who'da thunk? I wish I could make this bigger, but I don't know. Hang on, let me try one thing. Oh no, it doesn't stay. That's right. I tried this one other time. Sorry, that's as good as you're going to get it. Was it a crappy mailbox? Let's go back. I got to see. Oh, it's pretty plain. Yeah. Beautiful house, and why such a crappy mailbox? Yeah. And no, I guess it is right close to the road there, but yeah, why wouldn't you have something grand? That looks a little poopy thing. All right, here we go. So there's, yep, nice long dock. Looks like we have several watercraft. Oh, look at the entrance. Beautiful front door. Massive grand entrance. This is like a celebrity's house as far as I'm concerned. This is like something Britney. I would see Britney dancing with her knives in the foyer. Wow, look at that kitchen. That's a big old refrigerator. I've got refrigerator envy because mine is on the fritz. It is not keeping things cold, and I have to wait 2 weeks until the new one comes. Not a happy camper. Wow, that is quite the bathroom. Wow. And the pool. I don't know how I feel about the yellow things. How do y'all feel about the yellow things? The yellow pots out there. That looks very weird. Hokey. It looks hokey to me. Outdoor kitchen with the barbecue, of course. I mean, it wouldn't be respectable to not have an outdoor barbecue kitchen. And we have the big dolphins in the center of the driveway. Pretty picture. Big old bird cage on the back there. Yeah, I agree. Sharissa, I did not like the yellow. Not a fan of those yellow pots. Not really sure what they were going for with that, but I think they missed the mark. Yeah, like I say, not a fan of the bird cage. That's all of this business. Yeah, no. Oh, and it looks like this is an inlet to possibly the actual Gulf. Wow. Okay. Well, you go on with your bad self. An aerial shot of all of the roof space. Another aerial. We want to get to the inside again. Come on. More of the dock. At this point, you could just about call it a pier. And the front again. And the back again. And the back again. And the pier. Okay. Here we go. That is a pretty grand entrance, if I do say so myself. Beautiful doors. Just beautiful. That is, oh my word. We can't let Mr. Demeanor see that fish, that aquarium in. He'll be wanting to put all kinds of guppies in it. Y'all know that, right? The man loves fish, tanks, aquariums. Oh, and it looks like a huge one too. I'm wondering if this is vacant when these photographs were taken, because it doesn't look like anybody's actually living in it. It looks pretty barren to me. Yes, yes, Livy, a guppy castle. Yes, it would be a guppy paradise. But see, he has to separate them all because they have babies, and then he has to have the mamas in one and the babies in another one. And yeah, it's a whole thing. Stresses me out when he talks about it. I'm like, whew, you're giving me anxiety. Yeah, it is stunning, this aquarium. Oh, and that's all we're going to see about it. I will definitely have to show him after my live stream tonight. Looks like this could possibly be an office of some sort. You're probably right, Mrs. Georgia Mom, that these are photographs probably when it was on the market when he purchased it. Wow, pretty I don't know what that's called around the where the ceiling fan is fixed or attached. laundry. No, this might be a butler's pantry now that I look at it. And then we're back. I think this is likely the primary. I'm not a fan of showers without doors because I get cold. So this is not necessarily something I would pursue. I mean, I do like all the different heads. I stayed in a hotel once. Oh, y'all. We have to take a little bit of a break here. Little break. So for Mother's Day, one year, not too long ago, Mr. Demeanor and I decided to go back up to Tennessee. And we did a nice little tour on the General Jackson and had their meal and their show. It was wonderful. While we were there, Mr. Demeanor decided to go visit some friends of his, and I stayed back at the hotel. We had been put up in the presidential suite by a friend of the family. So while he was gone, this very fancy schmancy presidential suite the shower looked a lot like this one looks it had shower heads everywhere. And like I just said, I get cold in the shower unless it's enclosed and everything. And so I cranked that bad boy up. I like a really, really hot shower too. Cranked it way up. I'm just loving this shower and the steam and how wonderful it is. And then I realized that I set off the fire alarm. And I don't know what to do or how to turn this off. And all of a sudden, I'm like towel on my head, towel around my body, and I hear at the door. I'm like, oh, no. So I go to the door, and sure enough, there are several maintenance men, of course, and I'm in my towel on my head and one wrapped around me. And they had to come in and turn off the fire alarm because I set it off with all the heat and the steam coming from the shower. Okay, so in my defense, Livy says, wow, a fire alarm from a hot shower. Those are very sensitive alarms, or you were cooking yourself. Okay. I don't know why they designed this particular shower area in this room the way they did, but it was literally the fire alarm was literally right outside the entrance to the shower. No shower door on the shower. And so it was like right there. So all the steam was going right out there. Yeah, I did that. I bet they all remember me. They're like, hey, remember that time that lady set the fire alarm off in the presidential suite? And then she came and opened the door and let us in and 2 towels. Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. Everybody at that particular hotel. You're welcome. Glad it could be of service. Moving on. Had to share that story. Don't do that if you're in a hotel. Oh, that's rather pretty. The sink and the oh, it's got an S. I don't know if you all can see. There is an S right here for Shacknofsky, you think? Possible. And I mean, it's a pretty faucet. I like the design. I'm sure it was mega expensive. I don't know where we are here. No telling. Pretty door. Some sort of room. Nice and descriptive for all of you. Some sort of room. I think that may be possibly where a massage table would go. I'm guessing completely, but with the TV and maybe the color in there, it's leading me to believe that. Wow. This is a closet. I mean, it's not the fanciest one I've ever seen, but I would not be upset if this was mine. I'm just saying. This looks like bedroom area. Tray ceiling is beautiful with the lights in it. Yeah, I'm guessing this is a bedroom of some kind. And then we have the ugly yellow flower pots again. But this is pretty that it goes right out to the pool area. Alarm system and lots of other things. Let me see if I can figure out for all of you what this says. Give me a second. I'm going to look on my other screen. Wet bar, art, closet, hall, rope, ceiling, fan-like fan, master bath, lanai up, lanai down, good night, all on, setting fan, string light, and kitchen path. So all of the different lights that you can have on, that's what that pad is for. That's a lot of different lights. Woo! At least they're labeled nicely. This is the grand entrance. There's that aquarium again. I'm guessing that is either that doesn't look like that's large enough for a formal dining. That must be like a little dinette area or breakfast nook-ish spot. That is an unbelievable aquarium. Lots of pictures of the aquarium just for Mr. Demeanor. Lots of curved walls. I do like that. I'm a fan of angles and curves. I'm not one for things being very squared off. I don't know how I feel about these pendant lights either. They're a bit much for me. Just saying. Huge kitchen. Can you imagine the cooking Mr. Demeanor could do in this kitchen for me? Oh, I could bake cookies so much faster. Because it looks like there's a double oven. Brooklyn, very dated. I'm not sure that it's dated. This looks like this was an actual choice. Which a lot of it is coming back now. So cool rounded island in the middle there. I like that. More kitchen. Well, this looks like a little bit of a letdown. I'm a little bit of a beast about my laundry, and this looks a little sad. The reason I say that I'm not so sure that it's all dated is because if it were dated, the spaces for a lot of the televisions would be significantly smaller. We didn't have the size televisions. It would look a lot different. This, you can't see it very well, but right here, that's like a marlin in the actual tile. Just thought I'd point that out to y'all because you can't see it very well in the picture. And here's our outdoor kitchen again. Hot tub and the pool. It's actually, looks like a sizable hot tub. More yellow pots. It just does not go with anything there. I would love to ask what the thought process was behind that choice. And it looks like this big rock feature. I don't know that is actually a water feature if it's just rock. It doesn't look like there's any water coming down. Oh, and the sea turtle. There's a sea turtle right in the rock right here. Oh, well, that's cool. Maybe they felt they needed a pop of color and went with the wrong color. Yeah, maybe. Looks like the Playboy Mansion. Yeah. And your grandson would love the hot tub. All kids love hot tubs. Shoot, I love a hot tub. That's Mr. Demeanor and I get in ours all the time. It's what's kept us married for 26 years. That's where all the good conversations take place, are in the hot tub. Not a fan of the weird dark colored insert either in between each one of the corbels, but oh, well, this is a choice. This is a definite choice. I don't know how comfortable I would be utilizing this particular restroom. Am I the only one? It looks, I feel a little bit like I'm on display with this scene back here. That's a choice right there, baby. Just because you have a lot of money and you could do things like this doesn't mean you should. Just saying. Beautiful doors. I do like the doors. Elevator, I'm assuming. Front door. Wow, look at all this space upstairs. And that is one busy, busy carpet. Yikes. That is very blue. Like blue. Holy cannoli. That's a blue room. Yowzer. Like I like blue, but this is a little too dark for me, or too blue. It's reminding me of something and I don't know what. In the bathroom here, a little bit better with the dark blue trim, but I don't understand. These are very interesting choices. Very interesting choices. And I'm assuming fake plant coming down. Yeah. Gotta have a bar upstairs. Greek flag is blue and white. Is that what I was thinking of maybe? I don't think they're Greek because his last name is Shaknovsky. I'm thinking possibly Polish, and her first name being Olga. So I don't think they're Greek. I mean, I could be wrong. Somebody could Googly and find out what the derivative of the Shaknovsky name is. Oh, we got another choice going here. I don't even, oh. Okay, so this here is a fish. There's a fish. And then there's a bunch of shells in this here. And I don't know what this stuff on the bottom is supposed to represent. I got nothing for you. Wow. They do like a good themed room, don't they? Wow. There's a lot going on here. Arg, matey. You take the stern, or whatever they say. I'm not a pirate, so I don't know. This is something else here. This was definitely a new choice. I didn't know this was going to be so much fun. I purposely just pulled it up. I'm like, okay, got the house, and that was it. I'm so glad that that's all I did. Oh no, I see more action coming in a bathroom or something. What in the wide world of sports are we doing? Woo, this is busy. Holy cannoli. Wow. All of this busyness. And then it's a completely different kind of busyness in here. Oh my goodness. Sandra has it right. OMG. More fish. And there are fish on the floor, in case you can't tell. There are fish on the floor here. And then fish and crabs and such in these squares here. Oh boy. The glass window, which is like stained glass, is stunning. I love that. I would have played off of that so much more than what they did. Again, the weird yellow. Oh boy. Oh. Oh, I feel like like I'd be afraid to sleep that somebody would come capture me in this bedroom. Oh my. Oh, he's Russian? Is that what we just determined? Yes. Um, the busyness of what is happening with these bedspreads or something? Oof. Very true, Holly. Aladdin's bed. Oh, I don't know what we were going for there. Whoo, this is a little bit. What is happening with the peachy pumpkin orangish thing going on? What is happening over here? What? Oh boy. This is the best house tour yet. I agree, little drummer boy. Again, beautiful light here. Beautiful light up here. I absolutely love that light. That's what I would have played off of. And that's not what was done. Oh boy. It doesn't look like a over $4 million home when you look at the decor, now does it? It's like, what were you thinking? Okay, I see what they're going for with the ceiling color. I guess maybe trying to bring a little Key West into this particular bedroom. Back to the busy carpet. Oh, we're nearing the end of our tour. Were they on the old show Trading Spaces by chance? Yeah, and everybody got a different room. Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. That is a lot of pavers in that driveway. It's a lot of work. Whew. And there, I never say this right. The porticochier, is that how that is said? Where you drive through to enter the home? That explains why those docks are so far out. You can see how shallow the water is all through here. And then more of the exterior, more of the exterior. You can see the dolphins here, though. They sure did go all in on the coastal theme. I don't even know. Do you call it coastal? Because we had a pirate room. We had like a fishing room. I mean, there was a lot. There was a lot. And we're back at the beginning. Whew. I got to tell you, I wasn't prepared for that. That was a lot. That was really, really a lot. I need to drink. At this point, it should be something stronger than Dr. Pepper Zero, but hey, this is what I got. So we're going with it. Yeah. Wow. All right. Now we're going to leave the home. Where are we going next? You're probably all going to ask me. Where we're going to go next is I'm going to spend the remainder of our time together going over the original civil complaint that was filed. This was filed in October of 2025. And it is 133 pages long. I'm not going to read all 133 pages, but there is a big section of it that I am going to read because it's going to fill in a lot of blanks for us on how we got to where we are today. So let me get us going with that. I have to decide where I'm going to put myself, and I need to make this bigger, so that I can read it otherwise. Okay, so we can see this was filed on October 10th, 2025. It is the plaintiff, Beverly Burke Bryan, who is the personal representative of the estate of William Dale Bryan. Here, some of you were asking, here are the defendants in this matter: Thomas J. Sheknovsky, Genesis Care USA of Florida, LLC, also known as Genesis Care USA of Florida, Inc., formerly known as 21st Century Oncology. And this particular one, there was a second amended wrongful death, medical malpractice and personal injury complaint that was filed. This is the only one I could get the website to open for me. And as soon as it opened, since I'd been trying so many different ones, I quickly saved it and I wasn't able to get into any of the others. But I think this, even though this is a first amended complaint and there is a second amended complaint, this will give us a very, very good idea of what the heck actually happened. What did the doctor do? What did the doctor do? So I am going to skip through a majority of this beginning section simply because this is laying down the legal aspect of the complaint itself. Who are the parties? Who are the defendants? Who's the plaintiff? How much is the money? When did it happen? How long, in this case, when did Dr. Sheknovsky start working there? All of that. We're going to kind of skim through this part because I want to get to the actual allegations, which I think starts here. General allegations applicable to all counts. Got to move myself again. Wrong site surgery events are rare, but when they occur, it is a trend in and of itself that requires immediate remedial action. Wrong site surgeries are surgical errors that occur one event per 100,000 or 0.001% of the time. There is a footnote that states where they got that information. And if y'all could, think about maybe boosting the live stream, feel free to do that. There's no reason that you shouldn't. And everybody on the Twix, thank you so much for hanging out with us. In May of 2020, defendant Sheknovsky was granted privileges to practice at Ascension Sacred Heart, Emerald Coast, which I will call ASHEC, continuing forward. Since May of 2020, defendant Sheknovsky has scheduled and performed surgeries at ASHEC. By September 2020, just 5 months into his stint at ASHEC, defendant Sheknovsky was experiencing adverse surgical outcomes to such an extent that complaints were being made by ASHEC patients to the Florida Department of Health. Defendant Sheknovsky would continue to experience an inordinate amount of adverse outcomes throughout his time at ASHEC. Defendant Shaknovsky often invoked religious symbols and concepts in order to redirect conversations and or placate patients who had significant complications following his surgeries. Really, sir? Religious symbols and concepts? At all times material, defendant Shaknovsky was acting as the agent of defendant practice and was in the course and scope of his employment with defendant practice. I want to check something here. Hang on just a second. Okay. At all times material, defendant Shaknovsky and defendant practice owed a duty of care to Mr. Bryan to provide reasonable medical services. At all times material, both the defendant practice consisted of 3 general surgeons who primarily practiced at Ashek, and Ashek relied upon defendant practice as its local general surgery service. Relevant care for Mr. Bryan. On August 21st, 2024, Mr. Bryan was under the care and treatment of defendant Shaknovsky for left-sided pain and underwent a recommended splenectomy. On information and belief, between October 2019 and July 2024, Ashek had recorded a total of 4 splenectomy cases, the most recent being September 2023. None of these prior splenectomies were performed by defendant Shaknovsky. Defendant Shaknovsky performed the subject surgery at Ashek on August 21st, 2024. During this procedure, defendant Shaknovsky removed Mr. Bryan's liver and ordered that it be labeled as a, air quotes, spleen. In the process of removing Mr. Bryan's liver, defendant Shaknovsky caused Mr. Bryan's death. Defendant Shaknovsky never admitted that he removed Mr. Bryan's liver to anyone involved in this subject operation. Instead, defendant Shaknovsky maintained to himself and others around him that he had removed Mr. Bryan's spleen and that Mr. Bryan's cause of death was a splenic artery aneurysm rupture. He has repeated this assertion over and over to numerous staff and other physicians. He is the only one in the operating room that day who had this position. Problem. And remember, this is just the complaint. So until you have all the discovery and we know everything, there could be some of this that doesn't make sense. So this is just the allegation at this point. But I wanted to know what the heck happened, at least from one side. Defendant Shaknovsky reported in Mr. Bryan's operative note that Mr. Bryan succumbed to a splenic artery aneurysm hemorrhage. Defendant Shaknovsky was confronted by several Ashek physicians, nurses, and technicians on the night of the subject surgery who shared with him that they felt he mistakenly removed Mr. Bryan's liver. Defendant Shaknovsky heard from others in the operating room and others that looked at the specimen removed from Mr. Bryan that the specimen he described as Mr. Bryan's spleen was in fact Mr. Bryan's liver. One of the nurses in the operating room at one point yelled out to the chief medical officer, "That is the fucking liver." That's what she said. That's what it says. Some of the nurses and techs noted that it took them only seconds to recognize the liver as a liver, and many learned this in high school or elementary school. Yes. Wouldn't a scrub nurse or anyone assisting know difference between a liver and a spleen? Yeah. Looks like they did. It looks like they were saying stuff about it. Defendant Shaknovsky had the opportunity to see what he had removed and called it the spleen when he knew that it was Mr. Bryan's liver. Defendant Shaknovsky even explained to the Bryan family that this was a spleen, even though it was 4 times the normal size and was on the opposite side of the body than it is typically found. Despite this, the explanation offered by defendant Shaknovsky, as he was the attending surgeon, was that the organ removed from Mr. Bryan was his spleen. He's like double dog daring down on it. Later, the medical examiner would conclude that the organ removed was Mr. Bryan's liver, and that the spleen remained in its normal anatomical position and was overall unremarkable from an anatomic standpoint, a nearly normal spleen. At the hospital, it was not until a pathologist, Robert N. Blanchard, MD, hereafter Dr. Blanchard, reviewed the organ removed from Mr. Bryan that someone finally demanded that the truth come out. The removed organ was labeled by nurse Tammy Nelson at the direction of defendant Shaknovsky as Mr. Bryan's spleen, air quotes again. The initial informal pathology review upon information and belief occurred on August 21st, 2024 via communication with Doctors Bacani and Blanchard in the operating room. The specimen was informally classified as a liver during that communication. Dr. Blanchard communicated this informal information to Dr. Bacani and ASHEC staff on August 21st, 2024. Florida death records are required to be accurate and are made pursuant to Florida Statute 382.026, which make attestations of vital statistics punishable as a felony if made willfully and false. ASHEC policy and Florida law require that all deaths considered suspicious or unusual be reported to the Florida District 1 medical examiner. To present day, defendant Shaknovsky has not reported Mr. Bryan's death to the Florida District 1. What? To present day, defendant Shaknovsky has not reported Mr. Bryan's death to the Florida District 1 medical examiner's office and did not report the true cause of death. Sir, what are you doing? Wow. Oh, Holly? A nearly normal spleen. Wonder who ordered the surgery. Oh, there's more. We just started. ASHEC's morgue register form requires that Florida District 1 medical examiner criteria be considered by hospital personnel. Defendant Shaknovsky failed to identify Mr. Bryan's death as unusual and or one with suspicious circumstances. Defendant Shaknovsky wrongfully omitted any reference to Mr. Bryan's liver being removed in order to cover up, air quotes, his gross negligence, recklessness, and to hopefully avoid the embarrassment due to such derelict care. On information and belief, the president of the medical staff of ASHEC at the time of defendant Shaknovsky's leadership appointments was William M. Haney, MD. Dr. Haney is a board-certified general surgeon and is business partners with defendant Shaknovsky and defendant practice. On information and belief, as of August 2024, both Dr. Haney and defendant Shaknovsky were employed by defendant practice. At all times material, defendant Shaknovsky worked in a general surgery practice with Dr. Haney and Dr. Robert Ruby. At all times material, those surgeons shared office space in a building near ASHEC. Here we go, guys. This is some of the stuff I told you weren't going to believe. So, in 2021, Dr. Shaknovsky had a patient, W.O., to whom he caused multiple surgical complications. During the post-operative period, the patient was having inordinate pain and asked for pain medication. Dr. Shaknovsky informed the patient that he could not legally prescribe any more pain medication to him, but if he came to his office at Genesis Care located at 36468 Emerald Coast Parkway, Suite 11103, Destin, Florida 32541, he would give him something to help. When W.O. showed up at Genesis Care, Dr. Shaknovsky met the patient in the parking lot of the medical practice that he shared with Drs. Haney and Ruby and passed this patient a baggie full of loose pills, approximately 12 to 18 white tablets that resembled the oxycodone pills that had been previously prescribed. Both Doctors Ruby and Haney were in positions at defendant practice and ASHEC to know about all of defendant Shaknovsky's negative outcomes, both surgical and post-surgical, between 2020 and August 2024. So that little tidbit about the baggie of loose pills is one of the things that makes me ask questions as to whether Dr. Shaknovsky might have had a little itty bitty monkey on his back. prior to August of 2024, defendant practice was in a unique position of knowing of the high percentage of Shachnovsky surgery patients that had complicated postoperative treatment needs, many of which had to be seen in their offices on multiple occasions, and some had to be referred to Shands Gainesville or University of Alabama, Birmingham for further care. Defendant Shachnovsky had an inordinate number of complications between 2020 and 2024, and these complications ended up becoming frequent patients of defendant practice. On information and belief between May 2023 and August 2024, Ashek statutorily reported 3 surgical errors to AHCA. All 3 incidents involved defendant Shachnovsky. Most events related to medical errors in hospitals. I'm sorry, let me back up. Most events related to medical errors in hospitals are unreported by hospital staff, with 86% of incidents going unreported per the 2012 report by the Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General. And then it has the footnote about that particular report. The process of submitting information in the event reporting system utilized by Ashek requires the identity of the individual making the submission be revealed. A reporter basically has to sign into their account to file a report. Obviously, expecting a nurse to turn in a surgeon has inherent challenges. On information and belief, in May 2023, defendant Shachnovsky intended to remove an adrenal gland of a patient. Rather than remove the adrenal gland, defendant Shachnovsky removed a portion of the patient's pancreas, resulting in postoperative complications. Pancreas? Really? Adrenal gland? Sir, take a doggone anatomy class. On information and belief subsequent to the incident involving the adrenal gland error, rather than proctor defendant Shachnovsky, Ashek elected to stop scheduling such procedures. Oh, that'll fix it. That'll fix it. Sure. You, sir, don't know what an adrenal gland is, so we're not going to schedule any of those for you anymore, okay? It's all good. What? During the same time period in 2023, defendant Shachnovsky was also performing surgeries at other local hospitals in the Walton-Okaloosa County area. In August 2023, defendant Shachnovsky performed a partial colectomy on a patient who later suffered bowel perforation. This ultimately led to the patient's unanticipated death. Dr. Ruby was involved in the care of this patient and became familiar with the issues leading up to this patient's death. Defendant practice knew that defendant Shachnovsky had hurried and rushed medical records that were not complete and nor accurate, and had several incidents at Ashek which resulted in unnecessary patient harm prior to August of 2024. Right? Are y'all horrified? Yeah. This is why I wanted to read it, because this kind of arrest doesn't come without a lot. There's a lot. On information and belief, defendant Shachnovsky, let me try that again. Defendant Shachnovsky took a voluntary leave of absence from Ashek from late September 2023 through late October 2023. It is unclear what prompted this voluntary leave, air quotes. A month? A month? I mean, it's only people's health. Defendant practice knew of this leave of absence required by Ashek. By October of 2023, defendant practice knew or should have known that they had a consistently negligent and dangerous surgeon employed who needed to be permanently stripped of his surgical privileges in order to protect the community. Here, I second that. Defendant practice instead allowed defendant Shachnovsky to continue operating in an unrestricted fashion, in part because he was making the group money. And after all, isn't that what this is all about? It's about the money. On information and belief, in April 2024, defendant Shakhnovsky performed a cholecystectomy, removed the gallbladder, on a patient and severed the common bile duct. Y'all. On information and belief, following the incident involving the severed common bile duct, no reporting was submitted to any licensing or credentialing entity overseeing defendant Shakhnovsky, but defendant practice was aware. On information and belief, following the incident involving the severed common bile duct, Ashek's surgical staff reported the incident to Christine Collier, RN, the operating room manager, and or Alita Jefferson, RN. This incident was not escalated, nor was it reported by such leadership in violation of Florida statute and Ashek bylaws and regulations. This is because it was closed by a manager rather than being formally reported as required. Yeah, someplace I did see the suspension in the documentation, Kristen. The suspension, yeah, it was the month after this incident. So September of 2024 is when he was officially suspended, and his license in the state of New York was also suspended. Terrifying. He could practice, I was going to say practice law. He could practice medicine in New York City as well. On information and belief, between September 2020 and August 2024, defendant Shakhnovsky oversaw the surgical care at Ashek for several other patients experiencing operative or post-operative complications, which were not reported or submitted to any licensing or credentialing entity overseeing defendant Shakhnovsky. However, defendant practice was made aware of these issues. In July 2024, this would be the month before Mr. Bryan had his surgery and passed away, defendant Shakhnovsky performed a partial colectomy on a patient, MT, who suffered a transected ureter in a prolonged operation which resulted in permanent injury. Are y'all outraged yet? Do y'all want to make sure every single doctor that you go to, you Google them and you try to get into the county clerk of courts documents to find out if they have anything, any pending charges or any pending civil suits? Oh, yeah. Following the incident involving MT, defendant Shakhnovsky contacted MT by phone and proceeded to threaten the patient to not speak with any licensing or credentialing entity regarding that patient's surgical experience with defendant Shakhnovsky. MT was also threatened to not seek legal representation or no one would help him get better. MT was seen several times at the Genesis Care office following the initial injury causing surgery. The Genesis Care office was the place where those threats made by Dr. Shakhnovsky occurred, and defendant practice was aware of these complications. On information and belief, on an undisclosed date following May 27th, 2020, and prior to August 21st, 2024, defendant Shakhnovsky performed a wrong side procedure by performing a bilateral inguinal, I think that's how you say that, hernia repair on a patient consented for a right inguinal hernia repair. Yeah. Shocked and horrified is right. Yeah. On the wrong side. On information and belief, at the time of said wrong side hernia repair, defendant Shakhnovsky was alerted to the incorrect laterality of the procedure by Ashek's surgical staff. Despite this, defendant Shakhnovsky proceeded with bilateral intervention. On information and belief, several staff members, surgical technicians, registered nurses, reported multiple concerns regarding defendant Shakhnovsky to Nurse Collier, the operating room manager, the operating room director, and or Nurse Jefferson. Upon information and belief, defendant practice would have been made aware of these complications. Well, Sharissa, you sweetheart, with Kristen, thank you so much for the 5 misdemeanor gifted memberships. Let me get it pulled up here and see who we got. Who's getting these lovely memberships? Marilyn M, KCEKG, Tatted TT, Justice Serve TV, and Brooklyn. I do love my Justice Serve TV folks. I miss them. I have not talked to them in quite some time, but I love them and adore them. Well, thank you so much, Sharissa. Oh, where was I? Got to get back. From the time defendant Sheknovsky gained privileges at Ashek through early August 2024, there existed complicated surgical procedures and or complications related to postoperative care as outlined, though not limited to, by the following, all attributed to defendant Sheknovsky. Here we go. A September 2020 post-appendectomy care confounded by nursing staff's inability to contact the provider for acute post-operative needs. December 2022, complicated appendectomy requiring readmission. Hey, Jillian, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. March 2023, complicated cholecystectomy with biliary leak requiring readmission. That's when he nicked the common bile duct area. March 2023, complicated hiatal hernia repair requiring surgical revision by a different surgeon at the same facility. April 2023, complicated colectomy requiring surgical revision by a different surgeon at the same facility. April 2023, complicated hiatal hernia repair. May 2023, intended removal of an adrenal gland with unintended removal of a portion of the pancreas. August 2023, partial colectomy complicated by bowel perforation leading to unanticipated death. April 2024, complicated cholecystectomy, including severance of the common bile duct. May 2024, another complicated cholecystectomy resulting in return presentation to the same facility in August 2024. July 2024, complicated partial colectomy, including ureteral transection and a prolonged operation, which resulted in permanent injury, and undisclosed date following May 27th, 2020 and predating August 21st, 2024. Wrong site procedure of consented and planned right inguinal hernia repair completed as a bilateral inguinal hernia repair. Well, that is the $1 million question, Sharissa. How was his license not suspended earlier? I am not sure, other than he was making money for them. Yes. Holly says, oh, that's big trouble to nick the bile duct. I have a bile duct disorder called sphincter of Oddi. It's hard. I am massacring all of these medical terms. I'm sorry. I am not a doctor nor a nurse or any sort of medical, have any sort of medical expertise whatsoever. And I can't believe this hospital let this doctor still practice. It is shocking. That's why I wanted to make sure I covered this. It was surprising to me how much was allowed to happen before they finally did something. And it actually looks like they really didn't do anything until they were forced to do something. Prior to August of 2024, the reputation of Dr. Shaknovsky as a poor surgeon was so widely known by hospital staff that many would tell their family members not to report to the Ashek emergency room when they knew defendant Shaknovsky was on call for fear that their loved ones may become his patient. At all times material, doctors Ruby and Haney in defendant practice were in positions at Ashek and in the local medical community that would have made them aware of most, if not all, of the events discussed above related to Dr. Shaknovsky's lack of skill and judgment as a surgeon. And this is where I really wanted to start. I am so sorry. I read all of that stuff that I was actually going to skip. Let me check something here. Hang on. Because this gets into the actual story. That was the background. Oh, yes. This is what I was wanting to make sure we covered. Give me just a minute. I want to see how far. I think it goes to page 33, but I'm not positive. It's a lot. So I'm sorry. Let me take this off so I'm not making you all want to puke. My apologies. And your answer, Mrs. Georgia Mom, she is asking if she's curious if he was called in for any of these as emergencies. Yes, that is my understanding. They had on-call individuals. Yeah, this is way longer than I thought. Yeah, okay. Okay. It's about 30 pages that we're going to review. But I think this is the most important part because this is what is going to be what is covered in any sort of criminal case is what happened in Mr. Bryan's situation. On August 18th, 2024, Mr. Bryan was 70 years old and presented to the emergency department of Ashek due to left upper quadrant abdominal pain. Defendant Shaknovsky was on the on-call general surgery provider on August 18th, 2024, with full surgical privileges granted by Ashek. See, like I said, he was on call. Unknown to the Bryans was that fact that the Ashek medical and nursing community, including defendant practice, had the opinion that they would never take their loved ones to the ER knowing Dr. Shaknovsky was on call. Following evaluation in the emergency department, Mr. Bryan was admitted as an inpatient by defendant Shaknovsky due to concerns for issues with his spleen, but without any hemorrhaging. At the time of Mr. Bryan's admission to defendant Shaknovsky, the Bryans had no way to know about his numerous past medical adverse events. On August 19th, 2024, defendant Shaknovsky's initial treatment plan included magnetic resonance imaging of the abdomen and pelvis, trending of hemoglobin and hematocrit levels, pain control, vital sign monitoring, and nil per os dietary status, which means liquid or light food diet. MRI of the abdomen and pelvis performed on August 19th, 2024 demonstrated the following. The large splenic medial heterogeneous area is non-enhancing. This may represent a large hematoma but cannot exclude underlying mass. Correlate with trauma. Again, noted is the parasplenic fluid, likely hematoma. On information and belief, on August 19th, 2024, defendant Shaknovsky visited with Mr. and Mrs. Bryan twice in hospital, room 214 of the surgical progressive care unit for a total of 5 minutes and 45 seconds. I don't know if you heard that. 5 minutes and 45 seconds. Divided among the two visits. The first visit occurring at or around 7:22 a.m. and the second at or around 3:26 p.m. Despite Mr. Bryan's condition appearing to be stable, defendant Shaknovsky recommended surgery to remove his spleen. The Bryans rejected that recommendation and requested a transfer to a higher level of care. The Bryans ended up agreeing to stay and allow more monitoring. Go with your gut. If your gut says I need to get the heck out of here and get a second opinion, go do that. Don't ever not listen to your gut, man, even when it's in pain, because there's something else going on. On August 20th, 2024, Nurse Kat Gable visited with Mr. and Mrs. Bryan in hospital room 214 of the surgical progressive care unit several times, amounting to no less than 3 visits, including a visit alongside defendant Shaknovsky at or around 10:15 a.m. Mr. Bryan was scheduled to undergo surgical intervention on August 20th, 2024 at 1:30 p.m. On information and belief, Nurse Kat Gable updated the operating room staff of the surgical plans. This included, though was not limited to, the operating room charge nurse, the floor nurse caring for Mr. Bryan, and the CMO. On information and belief, in August of 2024, CMO Dr. Bakani was formally or informally monitoring the care provided by defendant Shaknovsky as a representative of ASHAC. On August 20th, 2024, defendant Shaknovsky documented the following. 70-year-old male with abdominal pain associated with splenic rupture, reviewed all pertinent imaging labs, the patient's hemoglobin on admission, 14 down to 11.2, recommend surgical intervention due to concerning physical exam findings, concerning imaging, as well as trend in H&H. Discussed risks, benefits, and alternatives. At this time, patient and his wife wish to avoid surgical intervention. Discussed with them possibility of deterioration clinically with a worsening bleeding, which may require emergent surgical intervention. The patient and his wife understood the information provided at this time, do not wish to proceed forward surgical intervention, continue supportive care, trend, H&H monitor, vital signs, serial abdominal exam. On August 20th, 2024, defendant Shaknovsky visited with Mr. and Mrs. Bryan in hospital room 214 of the surgical progressive care unit a total of 2 minutes and 5 seconds at or around 10:15 a.m. During this visit, defendant Shaknovsky again recommended surgery because that's where the money is. Money's in the surgery. The Bryans did not feel surgery was needed and expressed that to defendant Shaknovsky. He then pressed hard down on Mr. Bryan's left upper quadrant of the abdomen and left flank. Mr. Bryan said that it hurt for him to do that. Defendant Shaknovsky responded, well, that is why you need to change your mind about having surgery. What? Still, the Bryans insisted that until the blood work or vital signs were changed, that they would prefer a higher level of care. Oh, they should have stuck to their guns. Should have stuck to their guns. I should have seen if Nurse Kim could do this with me. She knows all this stuff, all these terms and everything. I don't know any of it. Maybe we could do a follow-up sometime. On August 20th, 2024, Nurse Kat Gable spent nearly 30 minutes in hospital room 214 of the surgical progressive care unit with Mr. and Mrs. Bryan. On information and belief and discussion with defendant Shaknovsky and other staff members, it was decided by Mr. and Mrs. Bryan to not undergo the aforementioned surgical intervention on August 20th, 2024, opting rather for repeat diagnostic imaging and continuation of serial blood counts and reassessment following such studies. On August 20th, 2024, computer tomography imaging of the abdomen and pelvis demonstrated the following: unchanged appearance of the heterogeneous splenic mass and subcapsular hematoma, as well as extracapsular blood in the abdomen and pelvis. No evidence of active bleeding. Defendant Shaknovsky would not return to see Mr. Bryan or discuss the findings following the above stated CT imaging study on August 20th, 2024. But it's an emergency. Doesn't come and talk to him on the 20th, but it's an emergency. On information and belief, Nurse Gable again updated the operating room staff, including, though not limited to, the operating room charge nurse, the floor nurse caring for Mr. Bryan, and the CMO. Communication excerpts between caregivers on August 20th, 2024 via intra-facility messaging application and or devices between Nurse Gable and the bedside nursing of room 214 of the Surgical Progressive Care Unit is as such. It's kind of hard to read this. This is from someone at the desk, it sounds like, or looks like. Good morning. For 214 William Dale, I got a system alert to make him NPO. It was hard to tell whether Dr. Shaknovsky put that in or if it was Cerner doing it. Do you know if he wanted him NPO? And then Nurse Gable says, yes, he's scheduled to have surgery this afternoon around 13:30. The desk says, oh, okay. Is it a splenectomy? And then Nurse Gable says, holding off on surgery, he can have a GI soft diet. We'll recheck HGB and AM and make him NPO after midnight just in case he decompresses overnight. And then the desk says, okay, sounds good. Thank you. And then Nurse Gable sends a heart. Isn't that nice? Several hours go by, like 4 hours go by, and Nurse Gable says 214, no change on CT. He's giving him a GI soft diet, NPO after midnight, and recheck morning CBC. The desk says, okay, sounds good. Thank you. And Nurse Gable sends another heart. Beginning at midnight, August 20th, 2024, turning August 21st, 2024, Mr. Bryan's dietary status was again ordered as nil per os. I think that's how you say that. And on information and belief, this was carried out by ASHAC nursing staff who denoted such status by affixing appropriate signage to the door of room 214 of the Surgical Progressive Care Unit at or around midnight. At 7:24 a.m. on August 21st, 2024, prior to any visits to room 214 of the Surgical Progressive Care Unit, Nurse Gable's published discharge instructions to Mr. Bryan's chart detailing care instructions for a post-operative laparoscopic splenectomy patient for a procedure not yet consented to by the patient. Shut the front door. We're just going to go ahead and give you all this information, even though you haven't asked for it. Yeah, no. All ASHAC nurses and physicians were assuming the Bryans would undergo the surgery despite their desire to get treatment in their hometown or at a facility offering a higher level of care. On August 21st, Nurse Gable visited with Mr. and Mrs. Bryan multiple times, amounting to no less than 2 visits beginning at or around 7:41 a.m. In sum, on August 21st, Nurse Gable spent over 15 minutes in hospital room with Mr. and Mrs. Bryan. Contemporaneous to the first of Nurse Gable's visits to room 214, she messaged defendant Shaknovsky. Surgery is a go, no questions. She must have done quite the sales job there. She missed her calling. She should maybe get a job at Rooms to Go or car dealership. At all times material, defendant Shaknovsky had financial incentives from ASHAC and defendant practice to gain consent for surgery. On August 21st, the actual day of surgery, defendant Shaknovsky did not visit room 214. On that day, however, his liaison, Nurse Gable, continued to pressure the Bryans to agree to the surgery. The Bryans finally relented to the surgery when the hemoglobin lab came back marginally lower. Mr. Bryan was transported out of room 214 of the Surgical Progressive Care Unit at or around 2:59 p.m. en route to the preoperative holding area. Mr. Bryan arrived at the preoperative holding area at or around 3 p.m. and on information and belief, he would remain there until just before 5:18 when he would be transported to operating room 3. Mr. Bryan's procedure was scheduled for 4 p.m. Beginning at 3:56 p.m., Nurse Gable resumed messaging communication with defendant Shaknovsky, including the following. What ABX do you want for splenectomy? ANSEF 2. Do you have an ETA? 5:10. He's in pre-op 10. Okay, your team is ready. On August 21st at 4:18 p.m., Mrs. Bryan signed consent for surgery paperwork for laparoscopic hand-assisted splenectomy, all indicated procedures. Badge swipe history reflects defendant Shaknovsky entering the building through the emergency department ambulance entrance on August 21st at 5:10 p.m., followed by entry to the surgical hallway at 5:11. This was over an hour late for the scheduled 4 p.m. Bryan surgery. Already seeing red flags. Just saying. Oh no, not another weird name. Thukthi Lee, MD. We're just going to say the anesthesiologist. I can say that easier than her name. And defendant Shaknovsky briefly interacted at the surgical control station at or about 5:12. Unknown to Dr. Shaknovsky, the anesthesiologist had questioned Dr. Shaknovsky's ability to perform this procedure and was concerned about moving forward with this surgery, especially at the late hour the procedure was set to begin. I wonder why she had concerns about moving forward. Hope that comes out. Anesthesiologist expressed these concerns to the CMO of Ashek, and similar concerns were expressed by other nurses prior to the procedure. Some of the staff were not aware that Dr. Shaknovsky even had regained his surgical privileges following the leave he was forced to take prior to this event. I thought his leave was in 2023. It was like late September to late October of 2023. Okay. Defendant Shaknovsky did not have any interaction or discussion with Mr. or Mrs. Bryan between August 20th until seconds prior to being transported to operating room 3. On information and belief, the maximum amount of time defendant Shaknovsky would have been able to spend at the bedside with Mr. Bryan on August 21st prior to surgery is estimated to be 2 minutes. During Mr. Bryan's entire hospital stay, defendant Shaknovsky spent less than 10 minutes with Mr. and Mrs. Bryan prior to surgery. Mr. Bryan was transported from the preoperative area to operating room 3 at or around 5:18, accompanied by anesthesia staff, nursing staff, and technical staff. Yeah, I'm wondering if there was another suspension because, I thought it was. I'm just kind of going from memory. I like to think sometimes I have a good memory, and I thought it was late September to late October that he had the suspension. So it does make me wonder, was this a second one? Did they suspend him another time? Like, what are we doing? Regular hemodynamic monitoring over multiple days amounting to nearly 70 hours of monitoring did not reveal instability of Mr. Bryan's vital signs indicative of hemodynamic compromise and organ hypoperfusion or hypovolemic and or hemorrhagic shock. At the time of surgery and including the entirety of Mr. Bryan's hospitalization, multiple diagnostic imaging studies over several days did not reveal any active splenic bleeding, which is true. At the start of surgery, defendant Shaknovsky did not document concern for new acute blood loss subsequent to the visit with the patient in the surgical progressive care unit on August 20th. On August 21st, at or around 5:23 p.m., the CMO, Dr. Bakani, presented to the surgical control station and engaged in a discussion with the OR charge nurse for several minutes. Despite Mr. Bryan being taken into the operating room, defendant Shaknovsky did not follow. Instead, he went to the medical library or physician lounge. Huh? The medical library? Sir, you need to get an anatomy book. Is this what we were doing? Do we have dyslexia? Are you dyslexic? And you went to the medical library to get a book, an anatomy book, to help you with the surgery you're going to walk into. This is all very comforting. Badge swipe history reflects defendant Shaknovsky entering the medical library or physician lounge at 5:29 p.m. On August 21st Defendant Shaknovsky signed, dated, and timed the consent for surgery paperwork for laparoscopic hand-assisted splenectomy, all indicated procedures, timing such signature as being 5:30 p.m. Badge swipe history reflects defendant Shaknovsky entering the first floor doctor's lounge at 5:42 p.m. Defendant Shaknovsky entered the surgical control station corridor at 5:44 p.m. and hurriedly entered operating room number 3, dropping his surgical mask in the hallway. Ew, don't tell me. No. Prior to surgery, the attending anesthesia provider documented the following. Concerns about the appropriateness of case due to possible limiting factors of the hospital were discussed with defendant Shaknovsky and CMO Dr. Bakani. Uh-oh. Prior to surgery, several staff members communicated multiple concerns to the operating room director and operating room charge nurse prior to the procedure, including, though not limited to, the nature of the procedure, the late start time for the procedure, the skeletal crew, and lack of confidence in defendant Shaknovsky. The surgical staff also shared with Nurse Schaefer, OR charge nurse, that they did not have confidence defendant Shaknovsky were uncomfortable with having this procedure at Ashek since they were not regularly performed there, and that they felt defendant Shaknovsky was not skilled enough to handle such procedure. Oh, well, that's an understatement. Beginning at approximately 5:46 p.m., Mr. Bryan underwent surgical intervention by defendant Shaknovsky with postoperative documentation as follows. Preoperative diagnosis: splenic laceration with hemoperitoneum, severe splenomegaly, splenic 10 millimeter arterial aneurysm, left upper quadrant, abdominal pain. Postoperative diagnosis: intra-abdominal hemorrhage associated with splenic artery aneurysm rupture, cardiac arrest, with pathology specimen documented as spleen tissue. Oh boy. Oh boy. The perioperative record contains the safety checklist timeout, which memorializes the staff present having confirmed the surgical procedure, operative site and surgeon review of critical unexpected steps, operative duration, and anticipated blood loss. This is documented as having occurred at 5:48 p.m. on August 21st and included the following individuals. Shaknovsky, Hector Aponte, Nurse Nelson, Nurse Corral, and Scrub Tech Emily Ajizi. Defendant Shaknovsky started this surgery laparoscopically, but decided to convert. Oh, shut the front door. But decided to convert it to an open procedure. Since defendant Shaknovsky did not document why he converted this procedure to an open surgery, it is not clear why he made this election. So, in case some of you don't know, laparoscopic surgery is where they go in for the surgery through several different holes, and they use instruments. It's far, far, far less intrusive than having your body actually sliced completely open and they root around and grab an organ and take it out. So for whatever reason, Dr. Shaknovsky decided in the middle of the procedure that he was not going to do it laparoscopically, and he was just going to slice Mr. Bryan open and do it that way. What is happening? Several staff members assisted with the procedure, which began as a laparoscopic approach, though was converted to an open approach, including, though not limited to, same people and an additional scrub tech. At the outset of the open procedure, defendant Shaknovsky exclaimed, "That's scary," to the surgical staff in reference to him holding a pulsating vessel in. What? Defendant Shaknovsky exclaimed, "That's scary," to the surgical staff in reference to him holding a pulsating vessel in Mr. Bryan's abdomen. I don't want a doctor saying anything like that while I'm on the operating table. Thank you very much. On information and belief, the same several staff members witnessed defendant Shaknovsky not take any steps at vessel identification, ligation, or clamping and were aware of a nearby pulsatile vessel, aorta, or structure, heart. Oh no. They did nothing to verify where defendant Shaknovsky was working and why he was on the wrong side. Wow. I think this dude got his medical license from a Cracker Jack box. Specifically, various members of the OR team do not recall Dr. Shaknovsky ever asking for a clamp when many of them could not understand why he wasn't using one. Many of the surgical team describe the scene in the operating room as the bloodiest they have ever seen, and they describe using more suction devices than ever before, but nothing as helping them control the bleeding. Oh, yeah, he definitely nicked something then. Yeah. At one point prior to the code blue, certified nurse anesthetist Aponte told Dr. Shaknovsky he needed to do something quicker. The patient was going to code. Despite this warning, Mr. Bryan continued to worsen, and he never saw Dr. Shaknovsky attempt to clamp anything to stop the bleeding. I suspect he didn't know where to clamp it. That's what I suspect. Hey, by the way, if you want to give a little boost to the live stream about now, this would be a cool time. At one point during the procedure and before the code blue was initiated, defendant Shaknovsky blindly fired a surgical stapling device. Blindly fired a surgical stapling device into Mr. Bryan's abdominal cavity, claiming that the chaos of the situation did not allow him to identify the organs involved. What? Sir, this is like you're on a plane and you're taking off or landing, and all of a sudden you go, yeah, this is way too chaotic. I'm not really sure what buttons I'm supposed to push on this instrument panel here. Yeah, we're just going to kind of hope. What is happening? At the same time of the code blue, Mrs. Bryan was in the operating room, waiting room, and heard the code blue called over the hospital PA. Since it was a code blue in the operating room and it was so late, she knew it had to be in relation to her husband. Oh, yeah. Mrs. Bryan immediately asked a security guard to find out what was going on for her. She was scolded by a nurse that she needed to remain in the waiting area. She went instead to the chapel. Mrs. Bryan is far kinder than me because I am a biddy when it comes to stuff like this. Y'all remind me to tell you the story of some of the things that happened to me leading up to my double mastectomy surgery and quickly after my surgery. Remind me before we end this live stream to tell you the story. Normal human anatomy dictates that the liver is located under the right hemidiaphragm in the right upper quadrant of the abdomen. In contrast, the spleen is located on the opposite side of the body. Yeah, like this little diagram shows. Look at there. There's the spleen. And here's the liver. Wow, liver is like really, really big compared to the spleen. Surgical resection of liver from a living person would involve the following: isolation, ligated, and division of the round ligament, falciform ligament, triangular ligament, and coronary ligament, as well as the attachment points of the omentum. Isolation, ligation, and division of the cystic duct. Isolation and ligation of the hepatic artery, skeletonization of the portal vein, ligation and release of the retroperitoneal attachments, all venous vessels dissected to the level of the IVC, isolation, ligation, and division of the short hepatic veins, isolation and ligation of the right hepatic vein and the common trunk of the middle and left hepatic veins, not a simpler quick procedure. Oh, Kristen, thank you so much. I am butchering all of these medical terms, but hey, y'all can read them and figure it out with me. If you have a medical background, yay for you. I don't. That's not what my wheelhouse is. So the same several staff members immediately recognized the liver the moment defendant Sheknovsky finished the surgical resection and placed the specimen on the surgical drape. Can you imagine their horror? Can you imagine? They must have been like, what did he just do? What the heck? That's a liver. That's not a spleen. It is not clear whether the removal of Mr. Bryan's liver was complete prior to the code blue initiating, but it is clear that the process of removing the liver, including the transection of Mr. Bryan's unclamped inferior vena cava, was before his code blue was called and gave rise to the code blue and tragic death. I need to hydrate again. Lots of talking. I will tell you all this. There is no better advocate for yourself when you are going in for medical procedures other than yourself. No one is going to fight harder for you than you. So if it feels off, if you are having a gut reaction, go with it. During the operation and at or about 6:34 p.m., code blue was activated pursuant to cardiac arrest. At around 6:41 p.m., the code blue team, including house supervisors for both day and night shift, arrived. At around 6:53 p.m., the CMO, Dr. Bacani, entered operating room 3. At or around 6:55 p.m., the current and or immediate past president of the medical staff, Dr. Haney, entered the operating room. Nurses in the operating room told Dr. Haney that they believed defendant Sheknovsky removed Mr. Bryan's liver instead of his spleen. On information and belief, Dr. Haney entered operating room 3 and recognized the specimen as the liver and quietly turned around, shook his head in what many recognized as disgust, and walked out of the operating room. Whoa. Talk about a descriptor. Upon review of the surgical specimen, several staff members and physicians agreed that the specimen was the liver and not the spleen. However, none of them made any effort to disclose that fact. The nurses felt trapped because the doctor wasn't admitting the truth. I can believe that. I just need you all to understand. Sometimes you can be in a work environment or a work situation, and there is a level of intimidation / fear of stepping out of line. And that can be pretty powerful and at times overwhelming. And I can imagine several of these individuals in this particular operating room felt that very way. So I want to give a little bit of grace to them because I can't imagine you're kind of in that, what do I do? I can think of a situation that happened to me many, many years ago with a superior of mine, and they had done something unethical and then admitted it to me. And in that moment, you start to ask yourself, what am I supposed to do with this information? It's very, very difficult, especially if you feel like you're telling on a superior. So I want us all to keep that in mind as we continue reading through what happened. Yes, nurses do not get the respect they deserve. I wholeheartedly agree. Okay, let's hit it again. While CMO Dr. Bacani and current and or immediate past president of medical staff Dr. Haney were both present in operating room 3, a telephone call with pathology confirmed the specimen as being the liver. Mr. Bryan was pronounced dead in the operating room at 6:56 p.m. on August 21st. Following his death, it was clear to everyone in the operating room that his death was under unusual circumstances, namely because his liver was on the table adjacent to his body. Pause. Livy has some breaking news. David was arrested. Oh, I'm following that one. That one's on my radar. Okay, well, that might be what we end up covering on Monday. You just never know. I had a feeling it was getting close. Clearly, Dr. Shaknovsky was on notice that what he had removed from Mr. Bryan was, according to many in the operating room, not the spleen, but his liver. This is assuming that Dr. Shaknovsky, allegedly a board-certified general surgeon, could not himself tell the difference between a liver and a spleen. At best, for Dr. Shaknovsky's version of events, there still existed strong disagreement as to what he removed from Mr. Bryan and what caused him to require code blue resuscitation efforts and die. Despite this controversy and unusual circumstance, Dr. Shaknovsky ordered 2 nurses and or surgical technicians to perform a closing procedure on Mr. Bryan. This closing procedure involved removing surgical devices, including 75 sponges from Mr. Bryan, and altering the evidence inside and on the outside of his body that usually is preserved for the medical examiner pursuant to Florida law. I need somebody that who's my retired nurse? Retired nurse in the chat. Is 75 sponges typical in a surgery? What is happening? Dr. Shaknovsky's order to the nurses to close Mr. Bryan meant that they were going to remove medical devices and alter Mr. Bryan's body and literally cover up the organs that related to controversy associated with his cause of death. The manipulation of Mr. Bryan's body following his death and Dr. Shaknovsky's refusal to admit there was an unusual circumstance delayed the natural referral of this case to the medical examiner's office. This delay would interrupt and delay the normal time period associated with the medical examiner's involvement. The order to close Mr. Bryan's was both to suture his internal incision and his skin level incision. These nurses and technicians were under strict policies to adhere to the surgeon's orders. I don't even know why you would close someone up if they're headed to the MEs or headed for an autopsy. Shaknovsky's decision and order to close Mr. Bryan following his death was an interference and or encroachment with his body following death. The autologous, I don't know how to say that, blood salvage record documentation signed and attested to by Philip Ajay at 3:45 p.m. Previously noted to be signed and attested to prior to the subject's surgery commencing on August 21st, includes documentation following the time of death, includes the following: aneurysm of splenic artery, code 1834, 1856 patient death. Mr. Bryan's liver was weighed post-mortem and weighed 2106 grams. The typical spleen weighs between 70 and 200. Oh my goodness. On information and belief, defendant Shaknovsky instructed the circulating nurse, Nurse Nelson, to label the specimen as spleen. He is not wavering from that. On information and belief, Nurse Nelson knew that the specimen was not the spleen, rather the liver, but labeled it inaccurately anyway because she felt it was not her place to argue with the surgeon. That's that thing I was talking about. I said something to y'all earlier. Defendant Shaknovsky continued to try and convince the operating room staff that the removed organ was the spleen, and at least one member of the surgical team became physically ill after hearing that statement. Wow. Oh. That's telling. That is very telling. Defendant Shaknovsky returned to operating room 3 different times following Mr. Bryan's death in an effort to convince all involved that he removed the spleen and the death was caused by a splenic artery rupture. The CMO contacted the on-call pathologist via cell phone. At or around 6:59 p.m., the CMO and the anesthesiologist exited operating room 3 and conferred with both the day and night shift house supervisors near the surgical control station. At or around 7:01 p.m., Dr. Haney exited operating room 3. At or around 7:11 p.m., defendant Shaknovsky exited operating room 3 to confer with the CMO, both house supervisors, and the OR charge nurse for several minutes, departing to the physician's lounge at or around 7:14 p.m. Defendant Shagnovsky's scrubs and forearm skin were visibly soiled with Mr. Bryan's blood. And here we see, down here, you can't see my cursor. Down here, I definitely see blood or something dark. This is him leaving at 7:11. Defendant Shaknovsky visited the medical library at Ashek in order to do medical research for his operative report that was deceptive and fictional. Badge swipe history reflects defendant Shaknovsky then accessing the medical library at 7:18 p.m. Too late, dude. You should have looked at the anatomy book before you went in there. Accounts of this surgery from personnel in the room are in direct contradiction to the operative report dictated and signed by defendant Shaknovsky. At or around 7:19 p.m., defendant entered the surgical corridor with clean scrubs and proceeded into operating room 3. Oh, there he is, all cleaned up. At or around 7:21 p.m., defendant exited operating room 3. Badge swipe history reflects defendant accessing the medical library at 7:21. Badge swipe history reflects Nurse Gable accessing the medical library at 7:25. I think Nurse Gable might be his little accomplice. Not sure. At or around 7:25 p.m., the CEO of Ashek, Trey Abshir, entered the surgical corridor and remained at the surgical control desk, interacting with the director of surgical services, Nurse Collier, upon her arrival at 7:29 p.m. At or around 7:32 p.m., the director of surgical services, Nurse Collier, entered operating room 3. At or around 7:32 p.m., the CEO, CMO, Dr. Bacani, and the anesthesiologist interact at the surgical control desk, following which CEO and CMO exited to the physician's lounge together. Oh, here we all are. This is the oh crap meeting. Oh crap. What are we going to do? Holy smokes. What's going on? I dare say this is probably the anesthesiologist. I'm not positive. There was a meeting between 7:32 p.m. and 8:40 p.m., including the CEO, Dr. Bacani, and all operative staff to discuss how Ashek would handle the messaging and records associated with Mr. Bryan's death. Oh, I bet there was. I bet there was a meeting. At or around 7:36 p.m., several staff members gathered outside of operating room 3, exchanging hugs and conversing, soon thereafter joined by the OR charge nurse, Nurse Schaefer, at 7:38 p.m. At or around 7:43 p.m., the defendant conversed on a mobile telephone in the surgical corridor for several minutes, then entered operating room 3 at or around 7:45. Hey, Melissa. Hi there. I hope you are ready for shock and horror. At or around 7:46 p.m., defendant exited operating room number 3 while apparently using a mobile messaging device upon stopping to converse with the director of surgical services and OR charge nurse, Nurse Schaefer, before exiting around 7:48 p.m. Badge swipe history reflects defendant accessing the medical library at 7:48. Badge swipe history reflects OR charge nurse accessing the medical library at 7:53. At about 7:55, the defendant entered operating room 3, accompanied by and in conversation with none other than Nurse Gable. At or about 7:56, defendant exited operating room 3 with the director of surgical services, Nurse Collier. Defendant and Nurse Gable met with Mrs. Bryan and other family members in Ashek's chapel to detail the cause of Mr. Bryan's death as being a splenic aneurysm and or hemorrhage. This conversation was in the presence of Nurse Montag, Nurse Gable, and the hospital chaplain. None of the health professionals, including Dr. Shaknovsky, present shared anything regarding the removal of Mr. Bryan's liver or other unusual intraoperative complications, despite being aware of such. At about 8:03 p.m., defendant entered operating room 3. At about 8:04, defendant was in the operating room with the body of the decedent, and he sent an iMessage to Mrs. Bryan. I'm praying for you and your family. Not as hard as you're praying for yourself, I'm sure. At about 8:05 p.m., defendant exited operating room 3 while apparently using a mobile messaging device. Badge swipe history reflects defendant accessing the medical library at 8:08. At about 8:16, the body of the decedent was removed from operating room 3 by several staff members. Between 7:45 and 8:15, CMO Bakani and CEO Abshir had a meeting in the CEO's office and eventually called in Nurse Montag to this meeting. Immediately following this meeting, Nurse Montag went out into the parking lot to find Mrs. Bryan so that she could have her sign a form rejecting any request for a voluntary autopsy. Oh, yeah. You want to see what I'm not going to sign in this particular situation? A voluntary autopsy rejection form. Yeah, that's not going to happen. No, I'd like you to transport my spouse's remains to some other facility because I don't trust y'all here. At about 8:19, CMO Dr. Bakani, the director of surgical services, and the OR charge nurse conversed at the surgical control desk. At about 8:40, several staff members exited the physician's lounge in close succession and remained at the surgical control desk with the director of surgical services, Nurse Collier. At or about 8:58, the director of surgical services departed the surgical corridor. The remaining staff departed the surgical corridor at about 9:12, with one of the final staff members conversing with a janitorial staff member working in the hallway outside operating room 3 and closing the interaction with a visible sign of the cross and upward pointed finger. At about 9:14 p.m., the OR charge nurse remained at the surgical control desk and conversed by mobile phone for several minutes before departing at or around 9:27 p.m. Badge swipe history reflects defendant accessing the medical library at 9:17 p.m. Defendant left and returned to the operating room several times to reiterate to staff present that the decedent had suffered a splenic aneurysm. Mrs. Bryan was informed that decedent suffered an aneurysmal bleed of the splenic artery, resulting in uncontrolled blood loss and death during the operation. This was not accurate medical information. Mrs. Bryan was chased by the night shift house supervisor into the parking lot of Ashek to get her to sign off on a form rejecting an autopsy. The night shift house supervisor on duty for Ashek contacted Florida District 1 Medical Examiner's Office and faxed the death notification worksheet offering pros to include, during surgical intervention of splenectomy, he coded and later died at 18:56 after all appropriate interventions attempted to save his life, to which the Florida District 1 Medical Examiner's Office declined jurisdiction. These forms were generated from defendant's diagnosis and conclusions as to cause of death. On August 22nd at about 10:18 a.m., defendant sent an iMessage to Mrs. Bryan. I am just reaching out to check on you. Please call me back when free. I have been praying for you and your lovely family. We are all heartbroken. I just wanted to reach out to you and let you know I'm here if I can help in any way. I know he's in the better place. He was a wonderful person, and I know he's with the Lord now. Sir, you don't get to help anymore. You done did all the helping you're going to do. The defendant purposely invoked religion with Mrs. Bryan to help cover up the real cause of death and hopefully placate the family so no further inquiry would be had. On August 22nd, the surgical pathology specimen is documented as being received with gross evaluation noted as the following. Received in formalin labeled with the patient's name and spleen is a grossly identifiable 2,106 gram liver measuring 23 by 18.8 by 11 centimeters. The capsule of the liver is partially torn. The hepatic veins are left open. The specimen is serially sectioned, revealing no gross identifiable lesions or masses. Representative sections submitted in 10 cassettes as follows: A1 through A10, representative sections of liver parenchyma. On August 23rd, the surgical pathology report was finalized, including the following diagnosis and commentary. Tissue designated spleen excision, liver with mild chronic portal inflammation, no malignancy identified, no splenic tissue identified. Non-party pathologist Dr. Blanchard reported these findings to defendant on August 23rd at 10 a.m. Defendant practice was also made aware of this information. On August 23rd, after speaking with Dr. Blanchard, the defendant certified the Florida death record facts attestation as follows. Manner of death, natural. Causes of death, hypovolemic shock, hemorrhagic shock, splenic hemorrhage. Was an autopsy performed? No. On August 26th, defendant submitted billing codes for total splenectomy through defendant practice for care rendered to Mr. Bryan on August 21st. Between August 21st and August 26th, defendant nor anyone at defendant practice provided the true cause of Mr. Bryan's death to his family or to the Florida District 1 medical examiner. Between August 25th and 26th, Florida District 1 medical examiner's office was notified of the surgical pathology report findings, after which the Florida District 1 ME's office took jurisdiction of the matter. Autopsy findings per the Florida District 1 ME's office included the following: surgically absent liver, no evidence of vessel cross-clamping or ligation or cautery, overt dissection of the inferior vena cava, and an untouched spleen without aneurysm or rupture. Defendant continued employment at defendant practice and continued to perform surgical procedures at a different area hospital through at least August 28th, 2024. I am enraged. I'm outraged. I am torqued. I am beyond words. This man was allowed to continue even after this? Like, how long were they going to let it go on? How many people had to die? Good night. On August 30th, defendant's hospital privileges at Ashak were revoked. Well, hallelujah, finally. Defendant verbally agreed to cease practicing at Ashak on August 23rd, 2025. That's a year later. I don't think that's a typo. I think that's the truth. Ashak medical records for Mr. Bryan still state that he died from splenic aneurysm. On September 17th, 2024, Associate ME Lorraine Lopez Morel, MD of Florida's District 1 Medical examiner's office certified the Florida death record following autopsy as follows. Manner of death, homicide. Causes of death, exsanguination, surgical removal of the liver. So he bled to death. On September 24th, the state of Florida Department of Health issued an order of emergency suspension of license in relation to defendant, outlining one aforementioned surgical error transpiring in 2023, as well as the subject instance regarding Mr. Bryan, several violations of the Florida statutes, and attesting that defendant's practice of osteopathic medicine constitutes an immediate, serious danger to the health, safety, or welfare of the citizens of the state of Florida. The ME following the forensic autopsy noted that Mr. Bryan's incision was closed, which covered up the missing liver and present spleen, although other non-surgical devices remained in place. Defendant ordered that all surgical devices associated with his abdominal incision be removed and thrown away. Because defendant closed the abdominal incisions, both internal and external, after he was dead and technically within the jurisdiction of the ME's office, the ME was forced to reopen Mr. Bryan's abdomen. Florida law requires that when a person dies from unusual circumstances, like where there is a dispute as to whether you remove the liver or the spleen, I love the snark. I'm here for the snark. The body should remain untouched from the surgery and all devices are considered evidence. The medical records, for example, reveal that during this surgery, over 75 surgical sponges were used, but were ordered by Shaknovsky to be removed and discarded. The presence of over 75 sponges being used with Mr. Bryan would have been further evidence of his transection of a major vessel like the inferior vena cava. Defendant knew this at the time of the order to close Mr. Bryan following his death. The forensic autopsy would reveal that the area where Mr. Bryan's spleen was located was not altered in any way and did not reveal any serious medical conditions. This was the basis for the surgery in the first place. Defendant's position in the operative note and with the operating room staff turns out to be completely inaccurate and misleading at best for him. Oh, okay. There are some exhibitties that I would like us to take a peek at, but I don't want to make you all nauseous when I go zipping through the rest of these pages. So let me do that. The rest of that portion is all of the counts themselves in this particular civil case. And so that's why I don't want to go through another 30 pages of stuff here. So let me get to, this is the notice of intent that I'm going through. But what I'm looking for something in particular. Okay, this is like 30 pages long. I remember reviewing this. Oh my. Bear with me all. There's not an easy way to get through a bunch of this documentation. All righty. This is what I was wanting to share with all of you. So here is the order of emergency suspension of license. It is dated September 24th, 2024. This was literally the day, a couple days after. It was filed on September 24th, 2024. Let's see, findings of fact. Oh, this is why I wanted to go over this. Well, thank you, KS Granny. She says, Ms. D, you've done a great job with all of the medical terms. I try. I really do try. Okay. Findings of fact. Facts involving patient GD. On or about Friday, May 12th, 2023, patient GD, a 58-year-old man, presented to Ascension for a scheduled adrenalectomy due to a mass on his left adrenal gland. Adrenal glands are small triangular glands located on the top of each kidney. During the surgery, the good old doctor removed a portion of the patient's pancreas instead of the adrenal gland. The pancreas is a large gland located behind the stomach and is surrounded by the gallbladder, liver, and spleen. The good old doctor did not remove patient GD's adrenal gland. Oh no, sure didn't. Doctor documented in the operative report that he removed the left adrenal gland. Ascension did not have on-site pathologists, so the doctor sent the tissue he removed to pathology for review. On May 15th, 2024, a pathologist reviewed the purported adrenal gland and determined that it was pancreatic tissue. I think that's supposed to be 2023. Isn't that when this incident took place? Yeah, I think they got their year mixed up there. And on May 16th, the patient presented to Ascension with leakage and pain around his abdominal drain and vomiting. In response to the allegations, the doctor claimed that the adrenal gland had migrated to a different part of the body. Is this dude is he for real right now? We are in bizarro world with him. He does not know anatomy. Patient GD suffered from long-term permanent harm as a result of the doctor's error. Facts involving patient WB. On about August 18th, 2024, this literally is days before Mr. Bryan. Days. This one is days before. Patient WB completed imaging, which revealed a suspected enlarged spleen and blood in the peritoneum with no active hemorrhage. Doctor reviewed patient's records and advised him to undergo surgical intervention. Of course. Patient declined surgical intervention, but agreed to be admitted for medication management. Following day, the doctor again recommended surgical intervention. Again, the patient declined surgical intervention and repeatedly expressed his wishes to return home to Alabama. On the third day, the doctor continued to pressure the patient to proceed with surgical intervention and cited patient's declining hemoglobin, which had decreased only marginally over the past 3 days. At this time, the patient relented and agreed to surgical intervention. Oh. Doctor scheduled the patient's laparoscopic splenectomy to occur on May 21st, 2024 at around 4 p.m. I'm confused because this said August 18th. These dates are not correct. Operating room staff noted that doctors scheduled the splenectomy and were concerned with it being done so late in the day since they had a skeletal crew. OR staff knew splenectomies were complicated procedures that could quickly deteriorate and were not regularly performed at Ascension. OR staff had concerns that the doctor did not have the skill level to safely perform this procedure. Hey, Jen, thanks for hanging out with us, this wild and crazy doctor. I use the term doctor loosely. This is WB is William Bryan. I think that is who this is all about. We're going to skip William Bryan because that's exactly what happened with him. I'm going to keep on going. Yep, still about WB. Yeah, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. My bad. WB is William Bryan. That gives us like a synopsis of all of this. Talks about the autopsy, which we've already read about. And we continue. We're almost to the end of all of this. And then I'll have to tell you my crazy doctor's story about people that just want to make money off of your health. Yeah, I think that's all the cases because then it gives conclusion of law, and there's only just a few pages left here. I thought there were. I'm just going to scoot this all the way to the end to make sure I'm not forgetting something. Yeah, his license was September 24th, 2024. And that is that. So let me tell you, when I was, I actually hadn't even been officially diagnosed with breast cancer. I had an anomaly and I was due for my annual mammogram anyway. I went in for my mammogram. While I was there, I kind of knew something was up because the technician asked me where I had my last mammogram and were those records available for them to compare. Well, I've had enough mammograms in my life that I knew that was unusual. And so I was a little more prepared with getting the diagnosis of a possibility of breast cancer because of that. So I get a call then. I'm sorry. Fast forward, I scheduled an appointment. Mr. Demeanor went with me to it was an appointment with a surgeon. They wanted to go ahead and do a biopsy to verify that it was indeed breast cancer. In the meantime of me going to do that and having the mammogram, I get a phone call from an diagnostic imaging center. And they are insisting on me having, and I can't remember the name of it, it's another type of mammogram. And I'm telling the guy on the phone, no, I don't think this is necessary. I'm going in for a biopsy. I think the biopsy is probably going to trump your little additional mammogram that you want to have done. And he was insistent that I schedule this appointment for this additional mammogram. And I wish I could remember the name of it, but I don't. It's a different type. And so I ended up scheduling the stupid mammogram that day on the phone with him because he wouldn't get off the phone unless I scheduled it. And then I called the very next day and I canceled it. Because why am I going to go have another mammogram done when I know I'm going into a surgeon to have a biopsy done from the area in question? So that was my first, what the heck is going on? My surgeons, wonderful. My regular surgeon was fantastic. My plastic surgeon, fantastic. When I had my surgery, it was all done at one time. So I had to coordinate both of the surgeons so that they would be available on the same day because I was getting a double mastectomy and reconstructive surgery at the same time, i.e. breast implants at the same time. And so they were wonderful. I love my doctors that I had. Fantastic, great bedside manner. Don't mess around. They were phenomenal. I got very, very, very lucky with that. Fast forward to my surgery. I was taken back and I don't know how long my surgery was. I feel like it was around 5 hours, but I'm not positive. Between 4 and 5. Mr. Demeanor could tell you more. I was out, so I don't know. When I came out of the anesthesia in the recovery room, I did not want to breathe. I was like, I'm going to stay sleeping. I'm good here for a little while. And so they had a lot of concerns that I wasn't breathing on my own. I was supposed to go home that same day and instead was admitted. I get admitted and I'm still really woozy. I think they over anesthetized me for my surgery, is what I think actually happened. And I had a lot of difficulty coming out of it. And I'm exhausted post surgery. I'm starving. All I want is a freaking sandwich. And finally, I get a nurse that comes in. I'm like, can I have a sandwich? This one, I had one great nurse. I had two great nurses and I had a really rude one. And the rude one came in and I said, can I get something to eat? "Well, what do you want? Like a ham sandwich?" I'm like, I'd love that. That would be great. So, she went to go get that, and all of a sudden this other nurse shows up and she tells me how we're going to go downstairs because we need to have some additional testing done. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of out of it, but my understanding of why I was at the hospital was simply for observation to make sure that I continued breathing. You know, they didn't want to send me home and then I stopped breathing in the middle of the night, where at least if I'm there, they can monitor my O2 levels and check to make sure that I'm coming out of the anesthesia just fine. And so this lady is wheeling me down several levels to this other diagnostic area, and I'm kind of sitting there and getting more and more with it as time goes by. And I asked her, what exactly are we doing? And she says, well, you're an asthmatic and you've been having difficulty breathing because of your procedure. And so we need to make sure that you don't have pneumonia. And she starts naming all these things off. And I stopped her. I said, hang on. Hold it. I'm supposed to be here for observation. We're not doing this. It's my choice whether we do this or not. And we're not going to do it. And she looked at me and she smiled and she said, I completely understand. I said, so take me back to my room. I'm not doing this. Takes me back to my room, and darned if I don't have one person after another coming in trying to get me to do all of these other procedures. Do you want a breathing treatment? Do you want this? Let's give you this. Let's give you that. I'm like, I just want to rest. I want to be home and I want to rest. I want to be with my dog. I want to have all my little protein food and drinks to help me heal quick. And so the next morning, I was supposed to be released at like 6:30 a.m. They were supposed to discharge me at 6:30 a.m. After Mr. Demeanor finally showed up in the afternoon, and both of us actually started raising absolute Cain in this hospital. I want out. Finally, at about 4:00 in the afternoon, the attending doctor, the on staff doctor, came and checked on me. And I said to him, you weren't even supposed to keep me this long. This is not why I was here. I know what you're doing. And sure enough, as my bills started to come in, and let me just tell you, they were plentiful. As the bills started coming in, and I had conversation with my general surgeon, and he said, I told them to discharge you the very following morning. As long as you were under observation and nothing happened overnight, you were to be discharged at 6:30 a.m. the following morning. I said, well, they didn't let me go, or they didn't discharge me until 4 p.m. You all know why. They wanted to charge my insurance for another day of being in a hospital bed. And I have, pretty Mac Daddy insurance. They wanted to do all those tests to get more money from my insurance. Just like the diagnostic place wanted me to do another type of mammogram so they could get more money from my insurance. And so I am so thankful that I was at least with it enough to say, no, I don't need to do this. I just needed to come out of this anesthesia and rest a little bit and eat a dadgum ham sandwich. Of all things, a ham sandwich, right? Of all things. And I just want to go home now. What I eventually found out is because my general surgeon had given the instruction to discharge me at 6:30 a.m. the following morning, anything I would have agreed to doing, my insurance would not have covered and I would have had to have paid. Because he was not requesting any of that to be done. But me as the patient didn't know that. I'm a biddy when it comes to stuff like that. You're not going to tell me what I know my body. I know what I need better than any doctor does. And women, ladies, especially out there, I feel like we are far more in tune to our bodies than men are. And I think a lot of it is because we deliver babies. And so we end up having a better connection with things going right and going wrong in our bodies. And I will tell you, I have told everybody I've come in contact with, be your own best advocate, get a second opinion. I don't care what it is. I don't care how much it costs. Get a second opinion, because unfortunately, at least where I live right now, the medical industry is a racket and they are just trying to make a crap ton of money. Yes. Yes, it is such a racket. And I am so thankful that I refused. Because, for a long time in my life, I didn't think that I could say no. I grew up a people pleaser and, oh, if I'm just good, then you'll love me. And if I do the right thing, then you'll love me and give me attention and care about me. And yeah, I went through a lot of counseling and I don't have that in me anymore. You can bounce out of here and not like me. I don't give a rip. I'm going to do what's best for me, and then we'll take care of everything else. So I say all of that as a cautionary tale to anyone else that is going to have any sort of medical procedures done. You have to be your own best advocate. And yes, doctors are often pushed to do more than necessary when they work for groups or risk losing their position. That's right. But you as the patient can say no. These are not mandatory things that you have to do. You just don't. And so thank you everyone for saying bravo, standing up for yourself. Good job standing up for yourself. Good for you. I want everyone to do that because it's necessary. It is necessary to do what's best for you. And especially when it comes to your body and your own medical care. So I will now step off of my soapbox. I mean, that's kind of true with everything. It's not just with your body. It's with your family. It is with friends. It is at your job. At your job? Yeah, you got to be there a lot. So if you don't feel like you're being treated well, it's time to dip out. Deuces. So I'm so sorry, Livy, that you had to leave a hospital that you worked at for that very reason. So all of that being said, I don't know what I'm going to cover on Monday for Monday Matters, but I'm probably going to have to start at a slightly different time. Just make sure that you have notifications on. I will post over the weekend what we may or may not be covering on Monday Matters. Yes, I think it will probably be the Celeste Rivas case. I'm not positive. I'll see what kind of documentation and things I can get my hands on. It sometimes if I can't get my hands on enough information, it's hard to do a live stream with all of you. So but I'll see what I can find over the weekend, and then we can cover that. Please make sure that if you are on Replay Crew or you're not on Replay Crew, you're here with me live, you've left your DNA on the thumbs up. And if you're on Replay Crew, leave me a comment. I like the comments. And what else? Hi, Eve. How about the Senator Nicole Mitchell trial? I'll have to look into that one. I am not familiar. You know, we had the whole thing pop off in the lieutenant governor in the Commonwealth of Virginia, did the whole homicide suicide thing. So yeah, people got to stop popping off. Remember to put your notifications on, and everyone that is on the Twix that has joined this evening, thank you so much. I do appreciate everyone that comes on to spend the evening with me. And unfortunately, I have to go to bed tonight, and it's the end of my staycation. But that's okay, because I only have to work one day, and then it's the weekend. So I will see you all on Monday for Monday Matters. And remember, doesn't cost a penny to be kind. So find someone to do something nice for today if you haven't already. And as always, remember,